Hello, welcome to Sunday Politics East. I'm Stuart White. Later in the programme, one of the leading voices in the campaign to leave the EU, and a fascinating insight into a fledgling government in the Far East. In the studio this week, Jo Churchill, the Conservative MP for Bury St Edmunds, and George Nobbs, the Labour leader of Norfolk County Council, who's been involved in urgent negotiations about devolution. Which is where we start, because the government wants to announce a devolution deal for East Anglia in the budget on Wednesday. There have been frantic, often challenging negotiations, but we understand a deal has been done. However, Cambridge City has pulled out. The deal for the Eastern Powerhouse will bring together Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire. The fact that Cambridge City Council is not included will not scupper the agreement. A mayor will be elected to take decisions across the three counties. The official announcement is expected on Wednesday. The details now from Tom Barton.
Emma Parr is getting married this July, and like most brides, she knows a wedding can take months, even years to plan. But sometimes the pressure can be on to get hitched quickly, and that can lead to problems. Take the proposal that Cambridgeshire's councils join Norfolk's and Suffolk's in a devolution deal. It's been an off-again, on-again relationship. Things, though, started to get serious 3 weeks ago. But, according to the leader of Cambridge City Council, that's just not enough time to get properly engaged.
3 weeks when you've got to have all of the councils together really isn't enough. We haven't been able to get all 23 councils into a room at the right time to actually have the proper discussion.
How frustrating has this process been from your point of view?
The process hasn't been good. It hasn't been enough time. There hasn't been enough analysis of the needs of Cambridge and Cambridgeshire. But we're there at the table ready to continue those discussions.
So some Cambridgeshire councillors worry this might be a shotgun wedding. Meanwhile, the county's businesses are warning of the dangers of an arranged marriage.
The government suggested that there should be proposals from local communities to suggest to them how they would like a devolution deal to work for their environment. Regretfully, what's happened, rather than coming from the bottom up, the government has decided to dictate what they wish to have, and the politicians are taking over.
Among their evidence, a meeting last month between Local Government Secretary Greg Clark, Devolution Supremo Michael Heseltine and Cambridgeshire's council leaders. This, argue businesses, was about piling on the pressure to tie the knot. At the moment, most local decision-making stops at the county boundary. Decisions made in Cambridgeshire are independent of those made in Suffolk or in Norfolk. The deal the government's been pushing for, though, would see decision-making extend across county boundaries, with an elected mayor making decisions about planning and infrastructure, which affect all three counties. And according to the former Cabinet Minister Andrew Lansley, Cambridge should see the three-county proposal as a match made in heaven.
We need a real city region to develop, and we need to use the opportunities for development that are to the north and east of Cambridge. So if you just think about it, places like Mildenhall, Red Lodge, Thetford, we can enable Cambridge to grow with people being able to access the affordable homes which could be built in Suffolk and Norfolk with rail access to Cambridge.
Ministers remain confident that, with or without Cambridge City Council on board, a wedding is still on the cards. And they'll certainly be hoping that it's the start of a long and happy marriage.
George Nobbs, are we right in what we've guessed so far?
Well, look, Stuart, I made a commitment to the 23 other leaders who are negotiating with the government that I wouldn't comment on the content of the deal or on the individual people who are taking part, and that's because it may form part of the budget next week, so I'm not going to depart from that. But I quite understand what the leader of Cambridge City is saying, and he's entitled to his view, but we are proceeding with it at the moment so that we can go on to the next stage.
He seemed to have left the door wide open.
Hopefully, yes.
And the sticking points. I mean, he's saying that he feels as if he's been railroaded, if I can use that term for him.
I have considerable sympathy for the views of all the people in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough who feel like that. We in Norfolk and Suffolk have been working on this for, what, a year and a half. So we're used to it, and this has come rather suddenly. They've been working on their own deal as well, of course, but the idea of bringing them all together was a fairly recent thing, I must admit, and it comes from the government.
Just one thing on that. The wealth of Cambridge sort of dwarfs the wealth of everywhere else in the region. Does that make a difference
I think it'd be unfair to the rest of I think it'd be very unfair to the rest of the region. I mean, we're talking about Cambridge City Council not feeling able at the moment to sign up to the deal.
Because they have so much money in Cambridge tied up.
I wouldn't impute that. No, I think that without Cambridge, I think there's a very viable deal there. But of course, we'd all like Cambridge to be in there, and that as you say, they left the door open, and let's hope we all get together. But by the way, every one of us has to take this deal back to our councils. Every one of us. Cambridge is going back to their council, and all the other 22 are going back to theirs with this. We're just trying to make the process carry on.
So you could go back to your councils, and all of you could have it thrown back at you.
Yeah, of course, that's democracy.
But it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's unlikely, isn't it? But
Jo Churchill, it is a mess, isn't it?
Well, no, actually, I would say it's like any negotiation process. It's a process. What we've actually got is we've got a series of opportunities opening up in front of us. As George said, Norfolk and Suffolk have been working on this. I think I first saw things last summer, shortly after I was elected, and Cambridge have been doing the same. What we've probably got is just conversations that need to go on more around the marrying up.
But giving us 3 weeks, or them 3 weeks, to sort it out, that hardly seems right.
But this is the start of a process. It's not a golden bullet. Take Manchester as an example. It's an iterative process. Every time you put a business case together, they come back, health's been brought into the Manchester deal, and each time you get a little bit more, the business case, you start to be accountable to local people locally. And that's what I think we both like about devolution.
There is a housing question in Cambridge, isn't there? That's one of the sticking points.
Yeah.
And how do you get around that?
Well, I mean, I think it's not just Cambridge, or all the district councils with housing stock or lack of housing stock and want to build more houses are very concerned about that. It's about the government relaxing some of the rules about housing. And if devolution means anything, the government has to give up some powers in some areas. And I think housing is very much a local area rather than a government area. And I think they need to, if they want these deals to succeed, they're going to have to make some movement on there and relax rules for local conditions.
You're nodding your head saying that the government have got to make... I mean, he's Labour and you're Conservative.
Yeah, but the end game is actually an improvement. We're net contributors to the Treasury in Suffolk. So where I see this having acute advantages are around housing, infrastructure, which is appalling. If this does anything, if some of the ambitions that are written down, like broadband for 100% of people in Suffolk by 2020,
and
Norfolk, but improvements on the A14, George would be looking at the A11.
A47.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
the railways.
North Junction, not just Norfolk and Suffolk.
This is broader, and it's about delivering, because we help Cambridge be as prosperous as it is. And I think it's important that comes into
and
it.
Right about infrastructure, because we're massive contributors in the east of England. We're the second biggest contributor. We get less than 1% back for infrastructure. It's ludicrous.
Okay, we will watch this space on Wednesday at the budget. Okay, let's move on now to the EU referendum. Last week we